Welcome, everyone. Today, we face a critical challenge in leadership. Did you know that 50% of CEOs struggle with developing the next generation of leaders? Even more concerning, only 12% of companies have confidence in their benchmark strength, which is a hindrance to growth across industries. This leadership crisis is real. Existing leaders are feeling frustrated and exhausted. Our talent pools are shrinking, and there is a significant shortage of leaders ready to step into key roles. For organizations to thrive, they must create environments where emerging leaders feel valued and find purpose in their work. This means prioritizing trust, authenticity, and diversity, along with a holistic approach to career growth and development. The old model of leadership based on control was effective during the Industrial Revolution. However, times have changed dramatically. Today, real power and energy in organizations come from relationships. The ability to form meaningful connections is more important than tasks, roles, and positions. People are now the central focus of leadership. Modern leaders need a clear sense of purpose to inspire their team with a compelling vision of the future. These purpose driven leaders go beyond profit. They are guided by social responsibility and a commitment to positively impact society and the environment. Leadership development is essentially crucial for millennials. With 71% aspiring to become leaders, this is why our webinar today is so important. We have gathered here to address these challenges and explore how we can cultivate effective, purpose driven leadership. Join us for this insightful session. Let's dive deeper. Now, allow me to introduce the speaker for today. Today, we have Dr. Thomas Juli, who has joined us for this wonderful session. Speaking on leading with purpose, a human centric approach to leadership development for today's workforce. Yes, so as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. And that's why today's webinar is very important as we will learn from experiences of our industry expert, Dr. Thomas Juli. He is a business guide and a coach with a vision to make human business the norm by 2030. With over 25 years of experience in various industries, he is the co founder and CEO of Human Business Labs. His work has earned him speaking circuit appearing at prestigious events such as NASA Project Management Challenge and the FQ Lounge at World Economic Forum. Dr. Julie is the author of The Spirit of the Human Business: How to Rediscover Our Human Being to Shape Our Future, and a lot more. So, he is here to share all his insights with us today so young leaders and the future generations can understand why it is important to put humans as the heart of any organization. Be it tech or AI, which might or may not take a lead in future, humans will always remain the heart of any organization. The platform is open to you, Thomas Julie.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And I think to tell you a little bit more about my understanding of purposeful leadership. And I actually like to start with a quote by Warren Bennis. Warren Bennis is a pioneer in leadership theory. When he talks about leadership, he says, becoming a leader is synonymous with becoming yourself. So when we talk about leadership, we talk about purpose. You may think, oh yeah, it's about, how do you define leadership and what's the purpose of the company? Let's start with ourselves. What is our purpose? What motivates us? What do we envision? What do we do about it? And do we have to be in a leadership role to be a leader? And no, we don't have to be, because if we want to practice purposeful and authentic leadership, we have to start with ourselves, no matter what position we are in. That's to start with. Yes, I mean, the first question is like where I've come from, after I obtained my PhD at the University of Miami in 97, that was a PhD in international studies. I first attempted to stay in academia, but destiny had different plans for me, you can say, and I joined SAP as a pre-sales consultant. Now, me being a maverick, joining a huge corporation at that time already, was not really a good cultural match. And very soon after, I went to a startup called iCube, an American startup. And it was like an IT business consultant, you name it. So that was my first experience working for a startup. Moved on to its main competitor, Cambridge Technology Partners, and later Sapient. So for a total of 8 years or so, then I gave it another try to join SAP, which I actually did for not too long, but I managed the SAP CRM development at that time, which was a huge project with 500, 600 people, developers, most of them actually in India. We're talking about a scope of 24,000 person days in software development alone. It was huge, and I helped recover that project, which was in total disarray. For a number of reasons, I left SAP again fairly soon after, and I started my own business, Motivate to Be. First focus on project management, then agile transformations, went into leadership development, organizational development, and which, however, I did not really call organization development because I'm not believe in organization development, more believer of unfolding the organizational potential there is. People may say it's the same, but it's completely different. Then at the beginning of the Corona epidemic, I joined Allianz as an executive, as one of two head coaches for the agile transformation of the corporation. And it was a wonderful journey for 3 years. And I was very proud to play a significant role in, how to say, help make Allianz more agile. I'm not saying it's an agile organization now, but has made tremendous steps toward becoming more agile. And last summer, I left Allianz to start my own business, Human Business Labs, which has been a dream of mine for more than 14, 15 years. And to give you an idea what we're after at Human Business Labs, we want to help businesses become more human and thus really boost their bottom line. And how we do this, we help ignite human potential within 2 days to 6 weeks through our project incubators. So maybe we can talk about it a little bit later on. But bottom line is we want to humanize business because, especially in the age of AI, the most important success factor there is not technology, it's not processes, it's actually us as human beings. So that's why it is so important to humanize business.
So now that this is how your journey has been so far, is there any key factor that has actually helped you shape your leadership style?
Well, there is a lot. I mean, it's like if you look at the career, that's one thing, but actually, my leadership style was actually really I was heavily influenced by the profession of my father, who worked with a lot of teams and youth work, social work, and it was really like working with teams as partners. It's like not authoritarian, but really like a partnership. And so when I joined Cambridge Technology Partners, there was a heavy a focus on a methodology, but even more so on team development, team magic, we called it. And when you have worked in a high-performing team, you can kind of like become addicted to it. And it's not just like about performance, it's like how you treat each other with kind of space you help create and nurture. It was like team magic. And in this team magic, in this space, when people feel safe, when these days we talk about psychological safety, magical things can happen. And this is like basically really the time at Cambridge, probably was one of the most significant stages in my professional life. that actually defined my career track.
So, Dr. Thomas, now that you have told us about your life journey and certain incidents or points that have inspired you through your leadership career, please tell us what is actually this approach all about? What is this human-centric leadership all about? And what does leading with purpose? What does it refer when you try to implement it from your side? How do you develop this?
Well, when you talk about human-centric and purposeful leadership, it's an expression, or maybe it is a skill to follow your heart's desires. Again, let's start on the individual, not so much, we can talk about business later, but first, what is your heart desire? So to give you an example, let's say you want to work in the automobile industry. Say, okay, cool, you want to be working there. So tell me, what is it? Why do you want to work there? You say, well, I have an engineering degree. I have so much. Okay, so what is it about this engineering that is there a certain technology you'd like to explore? It's like, well, maybe yeah, there's some maybe AI and then stuff, and how we can build it into machines and what have you. Say, so okay, tell me. So what does it bring to you? What is it? What's your contribution? And you dig a little deeper. What is it that really drives you? And then I would say, okay, tell me, what difference are you making to the world, to your peers? Because if you follow your heart desire and you want to inspire other people to follow you, if you're in a leadership position, but the first starts with you. What is it that drives you? Because you cannot, and basically you can say, what's your intention? What's your story you want to share? Because if you just say, I just copy somebody else's role, no, it's not about somebody else. It's about you. Human-centered leadership starts with you. It has to be authentic, starts from the heart. And so this is number one. Now, where did I learn this? And to give you an example, I actually learned this in projects. Now, I've been in some number of management positions. As I've said, I was an executive at Allianz, but that was not really the how to say, the best learning ground. The best learning space was actually in projects where you work with 5 to 8 people and where you practice leadership on the eye level, because everyone can be a leader. It can change, but this is one example. Let's think about projects. Let's start small. It doesn't always have to be in a corporate setting. There's something else which makes projects special. They can be self-organizing, and they're limited. Sometimes when you work on a project, it's limited in scope and time, so you can experiment. Maybe in a certain project, you try a different leadership approach, and then you learn and you learn your lessons, see what fits you, what's the best solution for a given problem. So you experiment, you learn, and you adapt. And this is why, again, I'm a great fan of projects.
I get that. So, can you actually give us an example of how this human centric approach has positively impacted your team and a company culture that you have worked in?
Yes, there was an example a couple of years ago. I was leading a project.
Mhm.
It was an IT project for a bank. And one of my teammates, much more senior than me, and he was really performing until about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And then his productivity dropped significantly. The problem was like this affected the work of all the whole team. So I had a chat with him and we talked about what we can do differently. And so we agreed on a number of things we wanted to change. And after the meeting, I said, like, say, Klaus, what are you up to this weekend? I said, oh no, we have a birthday party. My youngest kid is turning, I think, 3 or 4 years old. I said, I didn't even know you had kids. So tell me about it. It's like, so he told me about his kids, and that they have also routine during the week, when they bedtime stories and having dinner together, and et cetera, et cetera. And then I asked, Klaus, tell me, why did you want to join this project? He said, well, he hoped that he could spend some more time with his kids in the afternoon because it happened to be in the same city where he was living. Then I said, you know what, Klaus, from now on, I want you to leave at 4 p.m. so that you can be with your family by 5 o'clock. Yes, but I have so much work to do. And it's like, what can I do? It's like, we'll talk about it on the team. We distribute the work so that you can actually leave by 4 o'clock. Besides, you have a laptop. If you want, you can work at night. So we talked about this in the team, and we ask every team member, what is your motivation to be on this project? So the one person said like, well, the technology is great. The other person said like, actually, I like to go to a workout twice a week. The other person said like, no, I wanted to spend some more time with my friends. And it went on and on. I mean, sometimes some of it was work related, some of it was not. And then we discussed, okay, how can we accommodate all of this? And that's what we did. From that day on, productivity went way up because we gave the space for everyone to be there. We respected each other's motivation, and basically a team could actually emerge. This was like a very good example, I think, of human-centric leadership. It's a simple thing. Want to ask, why are you in this project in the first place? What motivates you? And then then listen to each other and see if it's possible to find a common ground.
That was really interesting. Now that you told us that having, humans, or when you value your employees and keep them in the heart, and they would actually take care of the company in return, and the productivity definitely shoots up. Tell us what, in your view, is opposite of this. So, what's the opposite of human-centric approach to leadership, and how good or bad that can be?
Well, there are two aspects I like to throw in here. It's one, top-down leadership,
Mhm.
where the leader thinks just because of his or her position, he or she knows everything and dictates what needs to be done. And it could always, it could become easily micromanagement. That's one thing. And the other example of lack of, say, even leadership, not just human-centered leadership, is when you focus on, let's say, the outcome, you can say, and on the output. So, for example, somebody, well, the most important thing is profit. That's the driver. Well, if it's really the driver, is it the outcome? So you mix things like, what is it that drives us? What's important? And it's like input, output, throughput, like you just mix it all together and you don't really care about the purpose. Now, there are a lot of companies that say the most important thing is to please our shareholders. Let's be blunt. Shareholder theory completely failed. It's BS, to be very blunt. There's not a single company that actually has been focusing on shareholder value that actually generated value, business value, sustainable business value. So shareholders are very important stakeholders, but they do not generate value. And it's not for them just for you're in business in the first place these days. So who's generating the value? Well, it's people. So you need to focus on people, on humans. And whom are you generating the value for? Well, we'll talk again about people as in customers, but you also generate value for the employees, because when you create a space, the environment for people to thrive, they will be more productive, the quality will be better, you can deliver products much, much faster, everyone is going to win. And bottom line is, business is going to be more successful. So it's kind of like, what comes at the beginning? What is the purpose of a company? And traditional businesses, it's basically the business of business is business. And worked for quite a long time. And then you had shareholder value and stuff. Didn't really work, bottom line, especially not in today's environment. So the question is like, what do you want to focus on? Customers? I go a step further. Let's focus on people. So it's all about businesses. It's basically about generating value for people with people.
So, interestingly, we found this from your website, and this company, Human Business Lab, is revolving around the same ideology that you just explained to us. So, you being the CEO and also the founder of this company, please explain a little more about this to us.
Yes. Well, like I said, we humanize business and we can boost the bottom line. How do we do this? We align profit, purpose, and people. So in the past, you can say profit was the main focus. And a lot of companies they lost their you can say their well, purpose. One thing, they're thinking of the right word, the direction. They're focusing on short-term gains. Well, if the human business at the intersection of people, purpose, and profit, we're not saying profit is unimportant. No. If there's no profit, if you don't make a profit, if you cannot grow, sooner or later there's not going to be business. So you're going to help with the people. And the purpose is like, why are you in business in the first place? So the human business is really the overlap at the intersection of people, purpose, and profit. And so you have the meaningful work, there's sustainability and advocacy. You care about well-being and the engagement of employees, which, by the way, is one of the critical success factors for innovation. Because most transformations these days, they don't fail because of technology or processes, but because of people. Now, I'm not saying blame people. I'm saying one of the main reasons why transformations fail as people is because people are not engaged. On average, only 13% of the workforce worldwide is actively engaged, which is a very, very low number. Now, there are some countries where that number is not as bad, but it's still the majority of the workforce is not actively engaged. Now, they may be satisfied, but not engaged. Now, imagine a business world where every single employee is engaged, actively engaged at work. So we're not talking about work-life balance. We're talking about work people identify with, where they feel being part of something bigger. Just imagine this, what you can do in that business. So this is all what human business is all about. Now, the other things like, the 5 elements of human business. We start with the purpose. Why are you in business in the first place? So you need to have a focus on a shared value. Now, a lot of companies, they think they have a purpose, but there's a very simple experiment. You say you have 5 people in the room, when you ask them, what's the purpose of the company you're working for? And let them write this down on a piece of paper and then share it. Hopefully, they have the same answer. If not, you're in trouble. So see if you can align it. Collaboration is about working not in silos, but in cross-functional teams. Innovation is, it's basically happens or emerges at the edge of chaos. You need to have different ideas, not like only one expert. Listen to some other people's opinion. The engagement, we talk about active engagement. But the thing is, when you actively want to engage people, what is it that drives them? We talk about respect, we're talking about joy. So bring this in to work and create an environment where people can thrive. Innovation, these days, innovation is more important than ever. But again, product and process innovation are important, but products and processes do not innovate, people do. So do not ignore and neglect people innovation. I'm not saying it needs to be a third people innovation, a third process innovation, a third product innovation, but you need to have people innovation in the equation, else you're going to fail. And last, bottom line, you have to deliver results. It's not about sitting around a bonfire, holding our hands and singing Kumbaya. I mean, no. I mean, profit is important in business. Without profits, in the long run, you cannot survive. And so these are the 5 elements of a human business.
Well, that really makes us understand why we have to generate the value for the people and by the people. So let's move on to the next slide.
So before we move into the next slide, Dr. Thomas, just have a question. Although you've answered it to some extent, but if we need to quantify these 3 vectors, which is people, purpose, profit, and obviously the core of it is the human element. So is there a quantification possible? That's question number 1. If it is possible, then how would you give the weightage to all these 3 elements?
It depends on the business, on the time. There can be times, so for example, if a company has to go through a number of layoffs, it could very well be that I'll just say the sense of security suffers for those people who are still within company, and there is a loss of trust in the company and the trust within the employees. So in that case, the people factor would be much more important, and you bring in the purpose, and then you can talk about profit. That's one thing, but if you neglect people, you're going to fail. Very simple. But then again, it's like, okay, now that we laid off so many people, it's like, what is our purpose? What, not just like the past, we basically revisit the purpose. Is it still timely, or do we have to adjust it? And can we identify with this purpose? So profit is at that point less important than people and purpose. But then I would start with people, because they are the generator of business value.
All right, now let's move on to the most exciting segment. So, in conversation, we have Mr. Mohit Sareen, who is the head of business strategy and marketing for Cognavi India, and we have Thomas Juli, who is the CEO of Human Business Labs.
So, Dr. Thomas, truly your approach to the human business cycle has been fascinating. Um, in Cognavi India, we focus on the human aspect to drive creativity. Uh, how have you seen human-centric leadership influence innovation in your area of work? Like, if you could
Well,
give us some examples, it would be great.
um, well, there are so many examples. Let me start with the following. I once had I was leading, or actually was coaching a strategy project for in a large corporation, and um, they besides they had some issues with the identifying the customers, et cetera. And we said, like, well, very simple thing. Okay, we have dailies, and there are 3 daily questions. Are you like, what have you accomplished yesterday? What are you working on today? And the third question is there anything you need help with, or do you see any issues or risk? These are the 3 questions most people are familiar with. And I said, like, let's add the 4th question. What are you happy? What makes you happy today? We can also ask, what are you grateful for? And let's track this as if it were just another work package. It could be related to work, could be anything. And the next day we say, Mohit, did you achieve your happy? And you talk about your happy goal, okay? And then collect it. And after a while, when we collect all of these Post-its, we put them on a wall. I call this a happiness wall. When you realize after 3 or 4 days that we as a team, individually and as a team as a whole, we are responsible for a happy workplace. It is us who shape our workplace. It is us who can make it a happy workplace. Very simple question. What makes you happy today? And then you track it. You take it seriously. And this made a huge difference. Now, I thought like this was an add-on because they were mostly engineers. And I was gone for 3 days, and I went to their daily a couple of days later. And actually, this 4th question became the very first question. They started with this very first question, the happiness question. Because they said, like, well, we did it because like it changes the whole atmosphere. It's lighter, it's more joyful, etc. And they also told me, it's like there were some colleagues, they're not at the door and they wanted to join the project because they heard it's a different atmosphere. There's space, there's human space. And well, they had to turn them down or turn them back because like it was a closed project. But so this very simple question can make a huge difference. What makes you happy today? Or what are you grateful for? Because you bring in the human element into the workplace, and then you realize it is us who shape our environment. We don't need to have permission. It's us. It's a matter of attitude. It's simple things, we can do.
That's very interesting, and I think the key takeaway for me particularly is that it's not the big things that matter, but maybe simple, direct questions like happiness, which can actually trigger innovation and creativity. So,
Absolutely.
so aligning. So you've worked across the global market. You work across different leadership styles. There are cultural differences in the leadership styles. So when we are working now, since in the digital age, the world is getting smaller. We are talking to you sitting in Switzerland while we are in India. So, you know, aligning leadership practices across cultural context, it can be complex. What strategies do you use to address this issue?
Uh, the most important thing is listening and doing so being humble. Acknowledge and respect the different cultures is key because culture is part of us. So if you're working in a cross-cultural team and you don't know where they're coming from, say India or the United States and Latin America, etc., completely different worlds. What is it that drives them? I mean, there are some simple things like, maybe there's a holiday which is like absolutely crucial to a certain person, let's say in Latin America, where it's just for you, it's like no big deal. Well, you have to find out. You can ask them and then you listen and being humble. Just because like maybe you are the project lead or you lead a business unit does not mean you know everything. Ask them, let them share, let them talk about their culture because it's part of them, it defines them. If you don't understand what drives them, what shapes them, well, you're missing part of the whole picture. So listening is probably one of the, listening and opening and openness is probably are the most important factors in this strategy.
So, just a follow-up question to this. You mentioned a leadership style which is top-down. Now, how do you, or rather, what do you suggest that in that case, how do we make sure that uh, the person who's the executor or who's responsible for the execution of the strategy, his voice is heard at the top?
Mhm.
uh, because it'll be difficult for him to one, uh, talk to his superiors, and especially when it's a top down leadership style. So what do you suggest we should do in that such a case or a scenario?
Well, if it's really top down, it's like the question is how can you survive? You know, I recall it's like there was a situation where there was kind of like top down leadership, and they didn't want us to align our efforts, etc. But I still talk with my colleague, about it, like well, how can we help each other, and how can we synchronize our work? And we're just like him and me. We just did this, and then we did this after lunch break. Then a colleague, a member, stopped by. It's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Well, we're aligning all the effort. We just want to listen to each other." "Oh, can I join you?" It's like, "Sure, just join us." And then another colleague, another team member stopped by. Eventually, the whole team was there except for the project manager, and we synchronized our efforts because we were listening. We respected each other. And then one day, the project leader walked by and said, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Well, we're talking about the project. We're aligning our efforts, and no, 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 no. Well, you can't do this. I don't allow you to do so because we have a status meeting. I don't want you to do this. Okay, fine. We don't do this." The next day, I just talked with my colleague, after lunch, and guess what? Another team member stopped by, and we start talking about first the day, and of course, we started aligning our efforts, and it just like we created it, and eventually, it was back down to like almost the whole team synchronizing the efforts, except for the project lead, but that was not the story. So it's like again, we can often shape our immediate work environment. So if the supervisor, the boss doesn't listen to us, okay, fine, we'll find somebody else, but should not be an excuse. It can be very difficult. Now, if nothing works, if it's toxic, see if you can find something else.
Yeah.
Leave the toxic environment. Now, in these days, where companies should have a keen interest in retaining the best talents, they should actually start listening. But if nothing changes, be consequential, find something different because you do not want to be working in a toxic environment.
That's very interesting and very insightful. Uh, at Cognavi, we are actually a 43-year-old company with our parent company being in Japan. Uh, so we identified two key areas of human staffing, for example. One was uh, the availability of the right fit of the candidate. Now, which you can say that maybe like today in today's world, an ATS could match the right candidate, and you can probably have it ready to join in a month's time. The other problem, which was far more serious, was the right fit, and I don't mean skill wise. I mean the culture fit. So in with that context in mind, we designed our AI to identify the culture of the organization, benchmark it, and that benchmark it actually uh, mm, uh, can be granular to the level of the departments as well. Each department can actually benchmark what culture works for them, because something that works in IT might not work in sales. Something might work in sales, might not work in HR. With that thought in mind, we designed a solution which empowers the HR, the recruiters, and the companies to have the right culture matched candidates in their organization. So it solved their attrition problem, and it made sure that, again, the happiness quotient of those employees are much higher. The toxicity of the work environment gets reduced. uh, and we empowered the HR folks as well as the managers to make sure that they have the right team to achieve what they're set out for, or to achieve their purpose. So with that in mind, we thought that maybe probably you could go through our offering, and come back to us with your thoughts as to how we can make it more robust. And that goes for all the people who are there on the website, oh sorry, on the webinar.
Yes. Let me add a few, if you allow me to say something about HR, because this is like some of you may know that I can be somewhat allergic to the term HR because we are not human resources.
Mm.
If we were, then we would have to compete with other resources such as AI. Let's
Correct.
be frank, we cannot compete with AI, and it's not what makes us special. We are human beings. And that's why I also say, do we need HR business partners? I'm saying no, we don't need HR business partners because it still means there's HR, there's business. No, I mean, business doesn't often lacks the understanding of what makes us tick, like cultural differences, for example. And HR often lacks the business understanding. What we need is human business when we're working together. So HR, if you still use the term HR, okay, fine. Let's use it as an abbreviation of human recognition. And I think your approach, with cultural fit assessment, is a very good example. But let's not make the mistake. This is not an HR tool. This is a tool for human business because it can make us grow stronger together. Again, and then we're talking about aligning profit, purpose, and people, and we all benefit.
That's a very interesting thought and a take on the traditional use of the word HR. And I think we'll keep that in mind, and we'll refine it as we go along. But thank you. This actually helps.
So now that we have actually had this discussion between Mohit sir and also with Thomas sir, let's now dive into the key insights and lessons. So for all of you who have been present here, not only Thomas sir is a CEO of Human Business Labs, he has also written books. Now we are here to talk about one of his books from which we would like him to share some key insights and principles and some practical applications and how it can actually inspire young leaders. the spirit of human business. So, tell us, Dr. Thomas, what inspired you to write the book and what are the main ideas or the essence of this book?
Well, yeah, thank you. The main idea is actually the subtitle, because the subtitle of the book, which is this yellow book here in the back, how to rediscover our human core to shape our future. And it was like a number of years ago, my teenage kids at that time, they asked me, so what does it mean to be human in the digital age? And we talked about it, and I actually made some notes, and I thought, well, this is actually very interesting, because like, what is it that makes us human? What is it that makes us special, and also in a business setting? And so I started, collecting some thoughts, some ideas. I started with the importance of asking the right questions, reframing what we can learn from kids, the playfulness, the lightness, and talk about emotions and why is it so difficult, especially for us guys, to identify, acknowledge, and express our emotions. Because fact is, like, we're being trained as machines sometimes, human resources, there you go again. But it's not, and believe me, even guys have some emotions. So there's a chapter in the book called Boys Don't Cry, Men Do, which is an invitation to show our vulnerability, you can say. And then I thought, like, well, it was kind of a coincidence. I about 8 years ago, I started dancing tango argentino. And I learned so much about leadership and life, dancing tango. Talk about vulnerability, about leading and following and what have you. So there's a chapter about dancing life in that book. And then I thought, okay, how can I bring everything together? And then I thought, okay, what are the key things that are crucial for successful projects? So I, developed a called MVP model, motivation, vision, and practice, which I've been practicing actually for a number of years already. So that's the methodological framework. And I compared to Agile and put everything together. So eventually human business was described. And everything is basically in this book. Now, the book is structured that it first explains what is human business in comparison to traditional business, but then it takes you on a journey to rediscover your human core. It starts with asking the right questions, talking about emotions, talking about gratitude, etc. So you first learn what, like I said, leadership starts with you. Basically becoming yourself again, being authentic, and then translating it to your work environment, first the project setting, and then the business setting, and thus actually change the business world as we know it. And my vision, my personal vision, as well as the vision of Human Business Labs, is to help establish human business by the year 2030 as the new global norm for innovative companies. So we have 5 years to go, a little more than 5 years. How do we get there? One project at a time. And I encourage people to have a look at the book, and let's go out there and establish human business.
Got it. So, how did these ideas actually help you when you were developing your leadership skills? Is it like after a certain level of experience you wrote this, or during your journey of writing this book, you came across a lot of new concepts that you wanted to explore? And is there a story that you would want to share from this experience?
Excellent question. I mean, yes, of course. I mean, a lot of the stuff in the book is based on my experience, but writing the book was therapy for me. Like the one chapter I mentioned, Boys Don't Cry, Men Do. Sometimes, like, I had an idea like what that chapter was about, so I started writing. I was only sometimes even, in a meditative state when I was writing. And then I read what I just written. I thought, like, wow. Or sometimes I didn't know, like, how I would finish a chapter. And just like in my writing, the ideas came, and which was really intriguing. And it was probably one of the best therapy sessions I went to. Was a little bit longer. It took me, the book by itself, of course, took like, I don't know, two or 3 years with the ideas, collecting the ideas. Writing the book took me about 2 months. And these 2 months, they were just totally inspiring, very energizing, because sometimes when I started writing a chapter, I didn't know exactly how it would finish. It was pretty cool. So I know that it's not going to be the last book, because it has been a most joyful experience.
Okay, navigating change and challenges, insights from adaptive leadership. So, in this segment, Dr. Thomas, we would actually like to know in this fast changing business environment, how do you as a leader stay adaptable and resilient?
Um, Expect the unexpected and build enough space to make mistakes and learn from them. Um, you know, there is an anecdote I'm sharing in the book about Google X, where they actually encourage people, teammates, to make mistakes. And it's not being, say, open to make mistakes, actually encourage people to make mistakes. The president of the European Space Agency, and he was on a panel in Davos at the World Economic Forum. He said they're doing exactly the same thing. Say, go make mistakes, because this is how we learn. Because if we just build, let's say, a rocket based on today's understanding or knowledge, it's not going to be enough. We have to really push the envelope, and by doing so, we will make mistakes. And then let's see how things work together. So it's like, when people say, oh yeah, we're celebrate mistakes and stuff, and they go to a big corporation. Okay, if you really celebrate mistakes, when somebody makes a mistake, well, will they still get a bonus or not? Often you find they talk about it, but then you look at their incentive system and they're not aligned. So basically you can say it's what we could call greenwashing. It's fake. So let's be bold and be authentic, and let's, celebrate who we are, and use actually AI as a tool for us to get there. But as a tool, we are the driver, not AI.
Well, I couldn't agree more. So, what advice do you have for leaders dealing with unforeseen challenges or disruption? Let's say most of the leaders who are in a higher management position have the ability to at least forecast or predict what may or may not occur. But that is not a limitation. Anything could actually happen at a given point of time. Vulnerability is present. So, how do you recommend that, either through effective communication, or what is the things that they have to be very keen on to lead these kind of times where things are uncertain and there is a lot of change happening?
Being aware when you think, let's say you come up with a 5-year plan, which I think is laughable, but so let's say you come up with a 5-year plan, you don't know what the world will look like in 5 years. Expect that the plan needs to be changed. Planning is most important. Even Eisenhower said this many years ago. A plan is worthless. Planning, it is what it is. You always, you need to build it. You always review it on a regular basis, and you need to adjust it. You need to adapt. You need to adapt it. So you need to have short, mid, and long-term goals, and actually do it in a very agile way. So when there is a company saying, "Well, don't do it in an agile way," I mean, what alternative is there to agile? I don't see an alternative, especially in a VUCA world where you don't know exactly what's happening. So you do it iteratively, incrementally, and see if you can get there a little faster. Now, you still need to have a vision. Now, a vision is not a plan. A vision just gives you like, well, this is the light tower. This is where I want to be at the end, say in 5 years. I don't know how to get there. I do one thing at a time. But don't think just because you have a plan or an annual goal that you get there. Now, this is not entirely new. When you look at OKRs, and you practice the OKR method systematically, I mean, it's already addressing this, because like you do not expect that you reach every single goal. At Google, for example, when they say they reach 60% of their goals, they're saying they're hugely successful. So when I look back at my time at Allianz, I was just like rolling my eyes, because sometimes they had goals and the way they communicate, and I thought, like, you just don't get it. There was no room for flexibility. That's not innovative. That's not agile. This is just like top-down management, and it has nothing to do with innovative. And it's often time they miss completely the mark of generating value for their own customers, which was very sad. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes not. If you work in a very stable environment, fine, go with a plan. If you work in a different environment which is changing, you have to be flexible.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Thomas, for sharing your insights. Now we are opening up the forum for Q&A. On that note, Dr. Thomas, I would like to ask a question. This is a age-old question that most of us are always stuck with. Are leaders born or are they trained?
They're trained.
So is there
Because
a
no,
concept?
I think let's put it this way. I believe we're all leaders.
Mhm.
We are all leaders. We can all be leaders. Depends, like, but we should not limit leadership to a certain role. We can be like you can say at the bottom of the food chain, and we can still practice leadership. But you need to know, what is it that motivates you? What's your purpose? What's your vision? That's what I encourage people to work on. And what can they do? Now, it could very well be that to say, you know, the reason I'm here in this job is really only to earn money. Fine. Be aware of your motivation and vision. Maybe you just want to earn some money to feed your family. So that's your driver. But know it, because this gives you energy. And leadership, again, is regardless of the role, you can do it. Just like, you know, the question is like, we want to dance live. Okay. Or life is like dancing live, or maybe the question is like, is life dancing us, or are we dancing live? And then if so, are we the leader, or we the follower? And what kind of music are we listening to, dancing to? What kind of rhythm? Can be actually changing. Find out where you are today, where you want to be, let's say 5 or 10 years, but find out who you are. And this is like a time investment that always pays off.
Well, I understand that. So, give me one input or a tip that any first-time leader should have. The reason I'm asking this question, Dr. Thomas, is because when we pass out from college and we enter the corporate world, we are tagged as freshers or rookies, and we usually have a training period. So we are trained on how we should enter the corporate world, what is what a work in the corporate would look like, how much inputs would take from us, what energy we have to spend, and all of that. But slowly, over a year or so, or a couple of years, they do raise in hierarchy, and they become leaders or managers or team leads and so on. But when they come to that position, they are again still in they're still first time leaders. They don't have experience of being a lead earlier. So what is your tip for them, or what would you give as an advice to them?
Well, the first thing is like what I said when you asked me earlier, what is purposeful leadership? It's like the skill or the ability to follow your heart's desires. So that means find out your heart's desires, not on a superficial level, dig a little deeper. What's important to you? And then you ask, why is it important? And then you ask again, why is that important? You dig a little deeper, okay? Reflect on it. If it's really important to you, and I say, you know what? I take this away from you, we say, no way, I cannot survive. Then you may have identified what your heart desires is. Then find out what's the ideal scenario. What's the ideal scenario, the nirvana, the bliss, what have you, dream, okay? And then ask yourself, what do you want to do about it? This is your compass. No matter where you start, it doesn't matter if you're still in college or if you're about to start, what is your compass? Now, it's important to find out if a corporate culture fits your compass. It doesn't have to be 100% overlap, but there should be at least some links, or you should, ideally, there's the interface. Maybe with the assessment, cultural fit assessment we saw from your company can actually help. Maybe you can identify companies that are actually using this tool, because then they can identify the companies that may be a good fit for you. It's not always that, I mean, you have to align with the corporate culture. It goes both ways, and then talk with people, share stories, like what does it take? Talk to experienced people, talk to people who failed, who succeeded, and be open about it. Don't try to pretend you're a machine. You're not. You're a human being. Now, and where do you start? In your immediate work environment, create a human space. where people feel respected, where they can show their vulnerability, where they can be human, where you can be human. And you will be amazed what difference this makes to you, how it energizes you, and this is the environment where you can develop your personal leadership and team leadership.
Nice to know. So we have another interesting question. So often we need motivation in life to do anything. Like let's say today I want to go to work. I should be motivated enough because either I love my job or I have some exciting news to share. There should be some kind of motivation. So what should leaders actually use when they have to motivate their team? Should it be reward or should it be fear?
The question is like, can you motivate people? I'm not sure. I gave you the example earlier when I asked my colleagues, why do you want to be on this project? Find out what motivates them and see how we can accommodate it. It may not be possible to accommodate it, let's be frank, but actually just trying to do so is the first step. And understand that people have different motivations. And then there also can be times where it basically it's all about business. I mean, honestly, right now, set the stage. You want to align some of the motivations, of the people. But again, there can be times where you just say, okay, be quiet, let's just do the work. And may not fit your motivation at all, but still needs to be done. That's fine. But if you know you have a performing team that understands this and that is prepared for these times of crisis, you're in much better shape than just like, oh, this is normal. And then you talk work-life balance, because work-life balance to me is, this is not a goal to have a work-life balance. No, it's like, because that would imply that work is bad and life is good. I want to go to work which is filled with joy, with respect, which is energizing. So I don't have to talk about work-life balance. When I work, I'm fulfilled. When I'm not at work, I'm being fulfilled. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Correct. So, Dr. Thomas, right now you hold a vast range of experiences working with different companies from different industries and the intense therapy that you received while writing your book. But what will be that one advice that you would give to your younger self if you would look back in time?
I didn't expect that question. I love it. Great. Be bold. Be bold. Don't compromise yourself. That's what I would tell my younger self. Do not compromise yourself. Never, ever. And there is no exception. Because, this is something I have done in the past to no avail, was never really beneficial. I was the person who hurt the most. I hurt myself. I take responsibility. I'm not blaming anyone. It was me who took the responsibility. So never, ever compromise yourself. And this actually boils down to the question, what is it that you want? What is it what your heart tells you? In college, we train our mind. But let's not forget, we have two other brains, automatically speaking, our heart and our gut, our intuition. Let's use all our three brains. That's much more powerful. But whenever you have make a critical, let's say, life-changing decision, if in doubt, always follow your heart. That is your compass. Now, if you have had a hard time knowing what your heart desire is, that's tough. That's why spend the time listening, connect with your heart. This is the human core. And this is the best compass you can have. You don't need anything else. Much better than AI, by the way.
That was very inspiring. So, I would like to ask another question. So, most of us, when we try to do something different, we always start with a self doubt. Like, am I good enough to tell this out? Am I good enough to try something new?
Yes.
Will I, be successful? Or all of these questions do always come across our mind, even if we don't say it out loud. So when you started writing your experiences in a book, which you obviously know would be published someday and will reach, a lot of audience around the world, was there any fear that actually bothered you, and how did you overcome that?
Well, it's happening to me. I won't say every day, but the book is one thing. When I started writing the book, I didn't have a publisher yet. Unlike with the very first book, Leadership Principles for Project Success, I had a publisher. Then I actually started writing the book, not with this one, but I knew it would be published. I just knew it. Do I experience self-doubt? Yes. And let's say right now, building my own company, Human Business Labs, there have been times which were very difficult, where I had some sleepless nights, where basically I have to tell myself, okay, trust the process, trust myself, trust the universe, trust God, whatever you want to say. And actually also saying, I am enough. I'm not a machine. Just saying, I am enough can be a very, very powerful affirmation and confirmation. I mean, it's basically show your own vulnerability. I don't have to be perfect. I'm not a machine. But the question is like, is it perfectly acceptable? And then question for whom? It's like in the past, in certain situations, I can see I tried to give my best at that particular moment. Now, in retrospect, you say I could have done something different. Yes, fine, but I'm trying to do my best. I am enough at that moment. I'm learning from it. Great. Maybe I'm not learning from it. And that's okay too. But we're human beings, and this makes us special. Our imperfections as human beings, they make us perfect and superior to any AI that we're yet to see. It's called creativity. It's intuition. And if anything, if people take everything away from us, there's still hope. I am enough is a very powerful confirmation. And I'm not just saying I'm preaching this because I've mastered it. No, I have not. Honestly, I have not. I'm struggling. And sometimes there are days like I think, shit, especially when you build your own company, where at this point I'm the sole investor. There is a chance that it fails, but I can say I've been trying my best. And being open and honest about it to myself, that's the first step. And this is again another example of not compromising myself. It's great if other people encourage you, but sometimes they don't. But it's your compass, then follow your compass. That's the wonderful thing about life. And this is pretty also the answer I gave to you is like, what would I tell my younger self? Be bold, be yourself, find out who you are. And it's just like this, when I say life isn't about finding yourself, life is about creating yourself. It's not just like, okay, this is who I am right now. When you realize that we are the architects of our life, that's just a completely different thing. Now, people ask sometimes, what's the future? You can, by the way, abbreviate what's the future, WTF. Or you ask, how do I want to live in the future? How do I want to work in the future? Because then all of a sudden, I am becoming the architect of my future. I create my future. But first, I need to know, how do I want to live? How do I want to work? It's not technology telling me how I will live. I don't need technology. I use it maybe to get there, but I don't necessarily need technology. I am in the driver's seat, and I will not let technology take over. Never, ever. Because we, as human beings, it's endless power. And this is really the core. And it's totally energetic. And it's like, if you ever experience, a flow moment, like in dancing and sports and whatever, there are no limitations. Maybe this flow state was only for a few seconds, but these 2 or 3 seconds, they were eternal. This is who we are. And let's take these insights, that experience into our workplace. And this is, again, this too is human business.
Well, that was truly inspiring. Thank you so much, Dr. Thomas, for your insightful inputs. In this room, we have a diverse group of individuals, each bringing unique backgrounds, skills, and perspectives. It's empowering to know that regardless of our difference, we all have the capacity to make meaningful impacts on the issues we really care deeply about. Let's acknowledge the power of our actions, no matter how small they may seem. Every step we take towards solving problems we are passionate about has the potential to create a rippling effect of positive change. This realization fills our journey with hope and optimism. Furthermore, the landscape of purpose driven leadership is evolving. It is heartening to see the increasing recognition of its benefits. Organizations that embrace purpose are not only attracting and retaining top talent, but also fostering innovation and making a significant impact on society. So, today, as we navigate through challenges in leadership, let's remember that we are not alone. Together, we can inspire and empower each other to lead with purpose and create a better future for all of us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and being a part of this wonderful journey. Thank you, Dr. Thomas, for your time and your insightful thoughts.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
With
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Cognavi, pioneering possibilities.